G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. Today I'll be sharing with you a testing technique that's going to make your day a lot easier. Let's get into it.
Max the mechanic is the man. Can fix it all, yes he can. With a joke and a cheer, your car troubles disappear.
So what I want to show you today is called a relative compression test. As you know, some engines have inlet manifolds built over the spark plugs. They're a nightmare to get a hold of if you want to do a manual compression test. This way, using the oscilloscope, we can use a relative compression test. I'll show you how it's done. Here's an example off a RYYZN Commodore. You can see the inlet manifold or the plenum chamber is covering at least 2 spark plugs. So it's really hard to access the spark plug hole to do a manual compression test. We're going to do a diesel today as well as a petrol engine just to show you how it's done. Right, so I'm going to be using the Pico scope today. I'm using the Pico 7 at the moment. So we've gone into guided tests, and the area that we're looking for is charging and starting here. Should be under the starting area. Relative compression, and we're going to do a diesel over here, okay? Load our file settings. Of course, you can go into guide and settings file, but over here the load settings file should be good enough for us. Generally they only get you to do the current clamp, as you can see on the screen there, but on the battery over here we've got the current clamp, and that has to go around one cable. Now it doesn't matter if it's the positive or negative, but it's got to go around the cable, the main cable that's going to either earth or to the starter motor. And I've also hooked up the voltage measurement as well. So this is current, this one is voltage, directly across our battery. So while the Pico has already set it up for us on channel A, I'm going to go to channel B and set that up for voltage. I think I've measured 10 volts before. That should do the trick for us. We'll go to 10 volts. And I'm also going to do AC coupling. It just makes it a better, easier pattern to capture. So we've got, fingers crossed, everything should be right to go, I believe. So we hit our space bar, or we go up to the top here where it says stopped, and we just hit that. Okay, can you start that, please? Okay, that'll do, thanks. All right, so what I'm going to do now is zoom in. Right, so you might see some anomalies already. I got that word right. I always get it wrong. So see this little guy up the top here? We're going to zoom in and have a look at the waveform pattern. So if we zoom in, maybe about that much I'm going to go. Now we put our zoom away there.
Is that a technical term?
And if you have a look here, it certainly is. The guy over here, so see the one down the bottom, you can see a low point there, right there. And if we grab our ruler again and we drag it across there, what do you notice? Well, you notice that there's a low point. Now what it's saying is on this guy over here that there is low current being drawn. And why would that be? Well, if it's low on compression, it's going to draw less current than if it's got high compression. So over here, this cylinder here, whichever one it is low. Then the next one is high, high, high. And that first one again is low. And that's consistent across the board. High, 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 and low. High, 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 and low. So that tells me that one cylinder is low on compression for some reason. This is a mechanical test. So it's not checking for fuel, it's not checking injectors or anything like that. On a diesel, what could cause that? Well, it could be an injector washer. It could be carbon buildup, holding a valve open, valve clearance is incorrect, compression rings, worn or something along those lines. But what we're saying is it's on one cylinder. This was a Holden Colorado 2.8 DuraMax. And so what we're going to head over to now is a VT Commodore with a V6 engine in it. And that clearly has some issues, but we'll be able to identify exactly which cylinders are at fault. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to be having a look at a VT Commodore V6 3.8, I believe it is, isn't it? Yes, okay. Ecotech. Now, Ecotech, very good. The difference between compression ignition and spark ignition. So already we've done the Colorado and we've seen how we can do a relative compression test on that. Yeah, so what we'll do now is we will have a look at exactly the same on this, and then we'll see if we can identify which cylinders we're looking at. So this is Harley. What do you reckon, Harley? How can we identify which cylinder will be faulty?
or we could synchronise it off our injector wiring.
Injector wiring, perfect. So we've got easy access to it. We'll have a look in a close-up shortly, but we can see how we can connect it to the pulsing side of our injector, and then we're going to go on to channel 3 or channel C, whatever you want to call it. Then we can identify which cylinder is faulty. So you can see here we're going into injector number 1, so then we can identify which cylinder is faulty. This is the power side, this red guy here, and this other one over here is the pulsing side. So we've hooked that up to our oscilloscope on channel C, or the 3rd channel, and we can identify that. We're just going to crank it, and we've done that because we've pulled out our fuel pump relay, so it's just going to crank over and won't start. So now we're going to crank it. We're going to have a look at the amperage side of things as well as the voltage drop across the battery, just the same as we did with the Colorado. So can we have that cranked, please? Hang on half a second, Mondo. Right, go for it. That'll do. All right, so if we have a look at our screen here, we can see that we've got 3 channels. Our first channel is our amperage or our amp clamp, and you can see there's some weird patterns in here. What I'm going to do is zoom in on one in particular. We're going to focus on, these are our points here where our injector pulse has been picked up. So we're going to go through one full cycle. Just zoom down there, like that. And we're going to get our rulers coming from top to bottom, that guy there. And we'll come down to there. Now you can see that there's some high peaks here. Over here, there's a high peak there. And further on, if we were to zoom across a little bit, I think that's our zoomage one, yes. All right, so we can see that it's high over here again. So that's the same cylinder. So as an example, it's a 6 cylinder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we start again, don't we? Now up in the red section here, channel B, it works opposite. You can see the valley is, or it's turning into a valley here, whereas this current is becoming a peak. So it takes more current to force the piston up against the compression, whereas down here there's a voltage drop as more current is being drawn by the starter motor, or more voltage drop occurs on the starter motor as it's fighting the compression. So we can see that we've got a good cylinder here. The next one, not so much by a long shot. Next one, yeah, not too bad. It's coming down, average. So we can see that basically we've got maybe 1 to 2 cylinders that are reasonable. Maybe this guy here, maybe this guy here, and maybe this guy here, but the rest 3 at least are absolutely knackered. How can we tell which ones they are? Harley, what do you think?
We use our injector pulse to work out which stroke we're on.
Right, that's our injector pulse there, good.
Yep. So then the one before this would be the compression stroke of cylinder number 1.
Right, okay, good. All right, so how's that helping us though? How does that identify the rest of them though?
So now we can go through manufacturer specs to calculate which ones would be in our firing order next.
All right, so I've gone onto the TAT website there. We've got a new section there called Ask Tech Tina, and this is for basic questions. So I wanted to find out what the firing order was for this VT Commodore. So I wrote that in there. I just said, you know, what's the firing order for a VE V6 Commodore? And she commented back with some information there. So it's 165432, very helpful basic information. So now we'll have a look at our oscilloscope and see how that relates to our injector pulse and the cylinders that possibly are faulty. Having a look at this waveform now, Harley, we've had to change it. The first one we looked at had a bit of a hiccup, but we're right now. So this green one here, channel C, is what?
Our number 1 cylinder injector.
Injector. Okay, so we've got our number 1 injector pulse here, and let's just say that this is number 1 compression. Does that make sense? Okay, so according to what Tina has told us, what's our next one there?
We've got cylinder number 6.
Over here, yep, 6.
Then 5.
5. 4,
3, and 2.
And 2, okay. That does, we've actually done a manual compression test on this before, and it does ring true that they are right. Okay, so tell me which cylinders. Let's just drag this down, and we'll have a look at the top's peaks, or the top of the peaks there. And clearly this guy over here is the best. So this was number 1. What was next?
6, so that'd be number 5.
6, 5. 5 cylinder is good. And what other cylinders do you reckon would be, yeah, okay-ish?
3 would be pretty good.
Okay, so then there was 4, 3 and 2, wasn't it? Okay.
5, 3 and 2, sort of a bit higher than the rest.
All right, now I'm just wondering, are they on one bank? So we've got 1, 6, 5. So 1, 6, 5. So 5, 3, and 1 would be on one bank, wouldn't it? So it's not on one particular. Yeah, it's on different banks. So what's the advantage of this, Harley? What's the advantage of using an oscilloscope apart from just a standard compression test gauge?
Well, now we've cut out some time wasted with playing around, pulling spark plugs out, putting in our compression tester, which is pretty time consuming.
Yep.
So this makes it a little bit quicker to get a nice quick answer that'll tell you if you need to go further
Absolutely.
in that path.
Yep. So it's a relative compression test. It's relative, blame your relatives, it's relative to the other cylinders that are involved, not a definitive compression test. You could use a pressure transducer if you wanted to do that, but this is quick and dirty and an easy way to find out if it's okay. So if this relative compression test video was helpful for you and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, guys. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. You can catch up with us on Facebook as well as Instagram, see what's happening in the workshop as well as the electronics lab. So until next time, guys, this is MiracleMAX and
Harley.
we will catch you later.